Allegra, welcome to People in Legal.
Thanks so much for having me.
Or could I get you to do an introduction?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Allegra Spender. I'm a member of Parliament in the seat of Wentworth, and I've just started a new political party also called Community Strong.
Awesome. So what's Community Strong about?
I think it's providing a different approach to politics, which is really sort of trying to build from the ground up, but really pragmatic, evidence-based, focused on both growing the economy, growing prosperity, but also making sure that you have fairness and opportunity for those people, you know, whether their parents can help them out or not. And also being someone who's both business-focused and cares about the environment, because it feels like there's such a push to the extremes at the moment.
Yes.
I feel like we need to have something that is much more evidence-based, much more community-focused, and much more pragmatic.
Sounds like a very sensible sort of approach.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got a really interesting background as well. I mean, you've been CEO, you've actually all different manner of roles in history.
Yeah, so I started out in business. I started out at working for McKinsey as a consultant and worked in the UK Treasury, ran my family's fashion business, ran an education charity. When anyone's asking me about getting into politics, I always say, do something in the real world first, because then you can bring those skills and perspectives to Parliament, because we need real world perspectives on the government.
I mean, AI is just such a hot topic. I mean, it has been for quite a while now. I guess, where do you sort of see Australia sitting in the whole AI scheme of things? Like, where do you see them sort of sitting from a global standpoint? Look,
I think Australia has some competitive advantages in AI, but it's absolutely critical that we leverage these. And I think that, you know, we are, from a commercial point of view and government services point of view, I want us to embrace the opportunity. But I also think there are a bunch of risks out there, and we have to manage those too. So I think, you know, Australia has, I think, great advantages in terms of things like our ability to build apps. We've got opportunity to be competitive advantage because of our data centers and also in critical minerals and our, you know, the strong, stable democracy, you know, rule of law, all the things that we bring in, including even our experience as part of the '5 So those are, you know, and our educated workforce. So I think these are some of the great experiences we bring. But there are things I worry about. I worry about things like deepfakes. I worry about aspects of privacy. You know, I worry about disruption, including to the job market. And so, you know, this is a really challenging time, I think, frankly, particularly for governments around the world to manage this.
So what could government do to actually to ease this, to actually make it easier and that sort of stuff? I guess there's all these different groups that may have some competing interests and things like that as well. How could it make it easier?
Look, I think that on the one side, I think really making the case that Australia, we can't hold back the tide. We can't pretend that this isn't happening. What we need to do, I think, is to, from our business's point of view, you know, we need to embrace it. But I think the government's job is about sort of guardrails, capacity building, and the sort of underlying environment to make sure that Australia is, you know, doing in the right spot. And I think it is going to be disruptive. So how do we make sure that, you know, we're helping people retrain if they need to retrain? How do we make sure that we have and are creating opportunities for people, as well as I think some of the impacts that's going to have. And I think AI can help the delivery of public services, which I think is really important, including potentially access to justice as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually run across a whole bunch of folks in the audience today who are actually really aspiring entrepreneurs. They've got ideas and they want to do things, and AI may be a way for them to actually like fast track that, make that happen. What's the government's view in terms of entrepreneurship and how they can actually foster that?
Look, I think that this is sometimes I'm not a member of the government. I'm, you know, on the crossbench, and sometimes I'm a bit critical of the government. I think they could have done more to foster innovation, and this is a challenge I think we as a country have. I think we need to increase our access to capital for things like in venture capital and private equity. That's I really want to see our super funds lean in further to that space as well as our banks. So I think that's an opportunity. You know, for some of that's a government regulation point of view. At the same time, I think this is, you know, how do we help and encourage AI adoption? Well, if the government is leading in use of AI in the public sector, obviously with the appropriate guardrails, then some of those individuals who want to develop interesting AI businesses can have government as a client. And I think from a procurement point of view, that's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. The education system is an interesting one. I mean, we've got, you know, the legal profession and the way it currently operates. I mean, how could knowledge workers, and I guess they focus on knowledge industries, how could the education system work better to actually to make those people more successful?
That's a great question. I think it's it's both the sort of academic skills, but it's also the real world skills. I've always been a big fan of work integrated learning, really, and people working while they're learning. And I think that's an opportunity. I'll be honest, I'd love to see greater and deeper connections between universities and training organisations and professions and including the legal industry, because you want people to leave university or leave education really ready to go. And too often I hear, well, the companies then have to invest so heavily in training them up. And I think that's more of that could be done at the university level. I
was interested to hear when you were actually talking on stage before at Team Australia, how could everyone pull together to be Team Australia for AI?
Yeah. I think part of that is saying this is an opportunity. But it's also, this is a moment where we should be proud of what we have built here, and I think lean in positively, because this isn't about Australians fighting Australians and sort of, it's about all Australians recognising that we as a country need to be at the forefront of this, or we will be effectively technology takers, and we will lose actually a lot of our ability to to make sort of sovereign actions if we are not on the front end of this. Because AI is it will transform things like defence. It will transform, sort of as obviously sort of technology and businesses and competitiveness, and, national security. So we don't have a choice not to adopt. What we have our choice is, how we do that, how to make sure you share the benefits, how to make sure that we put the guardrails in that are appropriate.
Yeah, no, excellent. Allegra, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, take care.